Sports Hot Seat is brought to you in part by Sport Buff in Place Alexis Neon, where you'll find the entire line of starter sportswear.
Welcome to this very special edition of the Sports Hot Seat. Mitch Garber with Mitch Melnick, and special because we have one of Canada's great heroes. Mitch, the 1992 Summer Olympics in Barcelona saw some great stories in Silken Laumann and Pablo Morales of the United States, but none seem to touch us so specially as our own Quebec synchronized swimmer, Sylvie Fréchette.
And not only have we got one of the finest, and it's still under debate, perhaps the finest synchronized swimmer in the world, we have one of the finest sports writers on this continent, the award-winning writer and columnist of the Montreal Gazette, Michael Farber, who covered that story that you were talking about. Welcome, Sylvie. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Can you go anywhere, Sylvie, without somebody saying, when are you going to get the gold?
Well, sometimes they just ask for an autograph. But I must say that since I've been back from the Olympics, my life has changed definitely. But it's very nice. It's very nice to see that the people, they still want to know what I'm doing, what's going to happen, and I would say that it feels very warm to feel that.
Are you aware of the intensity of the moment? You had your own personal thing to deal with over there, and immediately after the judging error. But back home, were you aware of how emotions ran so high here?
No, actually, I realized it the day I came back to Montreal. Actually, I got here in Dorval Airport. It was midnight, a little bit past midnight, and there were still about 500 people there waiting, singing songs, and they all wanted to talk to me, to touch me, to give me flowers or dolphins or little things like that. That's honestly when I realized how people were close to me and they were supporting me. I felt it through the journalists that were there, but I don't know, in my mind, it was only the journalists. It wasn't any further than that.
Michael, as soon as the error was known, did you something click, say, this is big, this is going to be huge?
Oh, it was huge the moment Sylvie got off a plane in Barcelona. I saw her swim in a pool downtown Thursday, I guess it was Thursday, and that was extraordinary because her music, Mask by Vangelis, was so moving and the situation was so extraordinary. I'm not a synchronized swimming fan. I mean, I don't think I'm going to go on my vacation and tour the pools where competitions are held. I mean, this isn't Fenway Park and Wrigley Field we're talking about. But I think I can recognize the story. And this was a fabulous story because it involved grace and poise and pressure and extraordinary circumstances beyond Sylvie's control. And when it was compounded by the error by Ana Maria da Silveira Lobo, the Brazilian judge, well, everything blew up. And I had gone to synchro swimming preliminaries not expecting much to happen because as a spectator sport, I'd rather watch paint dry. But it was, all hell broke loose. And I remember talking to you outside the stadium that day, and you said you were a fighter and you were going to fight through it, and fight you did.
Sylvie, how do you feel about Michael and others talking that way about synchronized swimming? There are not that many of us who are great synchronized swimming fans, but yet someone like you comes along and almost makes us feel guilty about not being synchronized swimming fans.
That's good. I like that. Actually, I guess it's just a question of education. Synchronized swimming is still a new sport. We've been at the Olympics only since 1984. And from that moment, Canada was very good at the world level. But I just think that synchronized swimming is still evolving very fast, and we just have to keep the journalists informed about everything we're doing. And see, he talks about it, and he was at the pool, so that's a good sign. And see, I'm here talking about it too, and now there's tons of kids that want to know more about it and they want to practice it. So I can respect people that would say, I don't understand that sport. Is it a real sport? Well, I guess now it's our job just to invite the people, come to the pool, try it, just come to competition, be behind us and follow us. You'll see it's a great sport. So I guess it's just our job now.
Do you feel that you're going to become, if you haven't already become, the pioneer of synchronized swimming really in this country?
I would say I think that the first pioneer was Caroline Waldo because she was the first soloist at the Olympic, winning medals for Canada. But I think that now more here in Quebec, Caroline Waldo was very well known, but I guess that now my name's gonna stay. In every pool where I go, there's a poster of me, or there's a picture of me, and actually I would say that I'm very happy about that.
How does it make you feel to see a poster of you in all the pools around Quebec?
Funny.
You know, I think one of the problems here is that the change in format for Atlanta, there won't be solo synchronized swimming. You won't be able to say, here's Caroline Waldo, here's Sylvie Fréchette, here's Kristen Babb-Sprague. There's not one person to identify with. Now there are just team competitions, just 8 swimmers, and how do you get that emotional impact? How do you get the Nadia, or in this case, the Sylvie that people can relate to? So I think it's been a disservice to synchronized swimming, changing the format. Not only are there going to be more athletes in the Olympics, and the Olympic movement is very concerned with lowering the number of athletes in the village and trying to keep it to 10,000, but you don't have the star. You're going to have team
So
competition.
at some point we could have individual bowlers, but not individual synchro swimmers.
Exactly.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I think it's positive and negative at the same time because, like Michael said, now there's going to be 10 swimmers at the Olympics. So what happened before is a year before the Olympics, there was a lot of swimmers quitting because they knew they would never have a chance to participate to the Olympics, and they were getting old and they wanted to do something else out of life. But now that there's going to be 10 swimmers, I guess that the girls are going to keep on swimming for longer. And instead of having one coach, we might have 2 or even 3 coaches. But what we really want right now is, if you've got 10 swimmers over there, why not do solo and duet? Why not? They're going to be over there. It won't be any more expensive than it is. So that's really what we're trying. I'm not sure we're going to be able to make it for 96, but I really hope for the year 2000 that we're going to be able to put back solo and duet. And at the same time, I would say that for the general public, maybe it's going to be easier to understand. Because when you watch the Japanese, the American, and the Canadian, they were so close that for somebody that don't really know the technical part of synchronized swimming, it was hard. They were only looking at the artistic part of it. But in team, it's very spectacular to see 8 girls at the same time in the water doing exactly the same move and doing some very high boost, because sometimes we can just push a girl out of the water and she would flip and dive back into the water, and that's very impressive when you know that the pool is 12 feet deep. There's no way we can touch the bottom. So I would say that for the general public, I think they're going to learn more about synchronized swimming, maybe more on the show part of it.
Let's go back to Kristen Babb-Sprague for a second. This has become one of the great controversies, I think, at least for Canadians. Kristen Babb-Sprague, everyone says, has Sylvie Fréchette's gold medal. Does she have your gold medal? And you have to ask yourself, how much would it change in your life right now? You've got the endorsements, you've got great fame, incredible respect. How much would it change your life if FINA reverses the decision and gives you the gold medal?
I guess I would be very happy to get it, but at the same time, I'm very happy right now with the situation. I guess the reason why I would like to get it is mainly for the respect of my sport. Now a lot of people say, hey, synchronized swimming is so politics, look what happened, and they don't even change it. I don't like that. But at the same time, I don't want them to take the gold medal away from Kristen Babb-Sprague. I mean, both of us, we've trained for 16, 17 years very hard to swim very well at the Olympics. She did it, I did it. What happened? I mean, it was the judges' work to just decide who was going to win, and they decided it was her. But actually, at the same time, I received so many letters from athletes from every kind of sport, or just telling me the Olympics are not the same anymore for me. I'm not even sure I want to go to the Olympics, and I don't want that. I don't want to tarnish the Olympic image that everybody's got, because for me, the Olympic Games were the greatest experience of my life. It was definitely worth it, and I don't want anyone not to think that about sport, because it's our big time. It's so magical that it's very worth it.
Michael, the Olympics and what happened to Sylvie, it could be the bureaucracy Olympics. That was the sense of outrage, that it was so obvious to everybody. Why couldn't you just go back and correct it? I mean,
Well, let's go back to the game of gin rummy that you grew up playing at home over the kitchen. And there was one immutable law to gin rummy. A card laid is a card played. The 8-7 was on the board. Now, the reason they have that rule is a lot of judges would be awfully embarrassed and there's a lot of peer pressure. If you find yourself out of touch with the other judges' scores, oh my goodness, they're all giving 9.4s and I'm giving an 8.7. I was probably wrong, let me change it. That's the reason they have that rule, and it's a legitimate rule. Now, in this case, we were talking about a computer illiterate. There was something wrong. The Japanese assistant judge didn't understand that she wanted to change it. There was confusion. It was posted. What compounds the problem here is the referee of the competition, Judith McGowan, is an American. Kristen Babb-Sprague, gold medalist, is an American. And in a highly politicized world of judging sports, and not merely synchro, figure skating as well, and all the other sports where it's someone's opinion, you see conspiracy theories. Oliver Stone would have a great time with synchronized swimming.
You know, it's an interesting fact that Michael brings up, because when you watch figure skating, you can predict the scores under the flags of the countries in most instances. In other instances, you've got skaters who have never really proven themselves, and so no matter how well they perform, they can't outperform the top guys or girls, whatever the case may be, in the sport. This must be frustrating as a journalist covering the Olympic Games, and frustrating as an athlete in instances where you know no matter how well you perform, you might just not get your due.
Yeah, but it's changing, I must say. When I started, it was really like that. It was for sure that you would never get a 9.9 by the US. Well, I did last year. I had a 10 from a US judge, and there was some US competitors there. But I think the point here is that she just made a mistake, and she wanted to change it, but before it was on the board. So it's not because she felt bad because of the 8.7. It was honestly a mistake. And I think that is what is so important for me. She said there was a mistake before she knew what everybody else wanted to put.
Unfortunately, you can't get back on the podium.
Mm-hmm.
You can't hear the national anthem be played. You can't have that moment back if they give you the gold medal. Does that give you any great sense of regret?
Yeah, because I would say that it was my only chance to live that. But since I've been back from the Olympics, talking with other people, talking with the kids, I can see that they see beyond the athletic performance. They saw the human part of it, and it feels good because when I'm in front of them, sharing my experience with them, answering the question, they don't only ask questions about my training and my competition. It goes a lot beyond that, and I guess that is what is getting me closer to them, and I like it very much.
Sylvie, where do you get your strength from? You had a personal tragedy to deal with before the Olympics, which we won't dwell on here, and then to have this happen to you in the midst of all this. If anybody had a right to be angry and bitter, it was you. You've conducted yourself with an unbelievable amount of class. Michael mentioned the word poise before, and as Mitch mentioned, standing on that podium, hearing the American anthem with your rival winning the gold, and not falling apart. Where do you get your strength from?
I guess it's just, it's coming from what I believe. I was so proud to be there on that podium. Even if I heard the US national anthem, I thought it was very long, honestly. But at the same time, I was there thinking, I did it. They did everything that they could to make sure I wasn't gonna be there, but I'm there. And I did it, and I swam well. I guess it's just a question of believing in it. It's a question of passion. I wanted to be at the Barcelona Games, and it was very hard. I never thought I was going to make it. Okay, I left for the Olympics, but I was weak. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to swim, but I really wanted to be there and try everything I could. And I remember after that mistakes, I went to see my mom and said, "Hey, Mom, what else is going to happen? A bus going to run on me? Let's go do it right now." I was getting really depressed, and actually I was crying quite a lot. But I remember sitting on the bus going back to the village and just thinking, you know, Sylvie, that's exactly what they want. They want you to cry. They want you to get so depressed that you're going to show to the whole world tomorrow that you cannot handle the pressure. Well, they don't know you, because you're going to swim so well tomorrow that you're going to show to the whole world who's the real champion. That's easy to say, but it's harder to do. So when I got back to the village, it was very hard. And when I'm frustrated, I eat a lot. So I had about 4 dinners and 8 ice cream cones. But I guess it's just where I decided I really wanted to do it. Not only for me, but just to prove what I can do. And that's how I did it.
Most of us followed the Sylvie Fréchette story in Barcelona through the articles of Michael Farber in the Gazette. Tell me, how was it covering this story from start to finish, and how did it affect you personally? Because this has got to be a story different than those where you cover athletes making $8 million a year and a lot of the basic stuff you get to cover.
Well, the day after Sylvie won the silver medal, I talked to her again under the stands at the pool. And when we finished the interview, I kissed her on the cheek. And I can't remember kissing Andre Dawson ever. Actually, I think the silver medal was better for Sylvie's career than the gold medal. And we've talked about this. In the way that death for Elvis Presley was a good career move. I mean, if Elvis Presley were still alive, Elvis would just be some big fat guy, right?
Yeah.
Are you comparing me to Elvis?
No, I wouldn't dream of comparing you to Elvis. You don't sing nearly as well. I saw you on Bye-Bye. No.
And Elvis in the pool must be a sight.
Oh, that's
a
it.
whale.
You know, water displacement, it would be unbelievable. No, but I think in some way Sylvie not only became a deserving Olympic champion, and being on that podium in my mind makes you a champion, but also a martyr to a certain extent. I mean, not only did she have to deal with the death of her companion a week before the opening ceremonies, but she had to deal with the system that was blatantly unfair. There was a seeming conspiracy against you, as you've just talked about. People in Quebec and people everywhere like martyrs. I mean, we're fascinated by martyrs, by someone who has been wronged and who rises above that. And without getting too sociological, I think a lot of people in Quebec perceive Quebecers as being downtrodden, as being oppressed either by a central government or by history or whatever. So I think Sylvie plays very well into that mindset. And so I think the response to Sylvie was even greater than if she had won a gold medal, if 8.7 had never happened. So I think that was very important. The other thing that I found curious is when I spoke with the Brazilian judge before Christmas, she wouldn't tell me what she planned to give you. And that upset me. And she said, well, it was very good. And I said, well, what do you rate that? Well, between 9.0 and 10.0. So we know...
Enough.
We know it was 9.4. As Pat Murray of the Canadian synchro team figured out for us, because I can't do synchro math, would have been enough. So we don't know. But then, as the Brazilian judge pointed out, maybe there was a certain sympathy towards Sylvie in judging the solo routine the next day. So who knows?
But you know, I can understand that she wouldn't want to tell you, because if she did tell you 9.2, all the Canadian would be against her. But if she said 9.7, it's the American that would say, why did you say that? So I wouldn't like to be in her shoes, because it's very hard. There's a lot of pressure on her right now.
There was more than a certain amount of anti-American sentiment in this province in the aftermath of the controversy in Barcelona. Have you spoken to Kristen Babs-Riggs since that event?
No, actually I would say that Kristen and I, we were quite close friends, but never talking to each other between the competition. But every time we go to international competition and meet each other, we would look at pictures and share everything together. And actually I think it's maybe better that way. Actually, she even talked about maybe coming to Montreal, and now I realize that it would have been very bad, because if people recognize her on the street, you don't know what it would have done. So I think it's better that way, but I hope that someday we're going to meet again and just have a chance to talk about everyday life, not only about that thing, that's on the past. But I would like to know how she's doing right now, what she's doing in her life and everything.
Can you speculate on how she feels emotionally?
Well, it's hard, I'm not her. But when I see every interview that I see from her in the magazine, she always have to explain what happened and how she feels and why she feels that way. So I'm quite sure that she's not feeling as she's supposed to be as a gold medal winning at the Olympics. And actually I'm a little bit sad about that.
Could she have handled it a little bit better? And if they took away the gold from her to give it to you, what would your reaction then be?
I wouldn't take it. No way. I mean, that's part of my sport. And the protocol is like that for that moment. Let's change it though. But at that moment, she was declared champion, so just keep it. I wouldn't take it.
So in the best of all worlds, Michael and Sylvie, best that they share the gold medal.
Well, this is what
To right the air, That would be the
Well,
best
this is
one.
what FINA is looking at, and a lot of people were angry with the Canadian sporting establishment in Barcelona. They didn't think they had done enough on Sylvie's behalf. Well, post-Barcelona, a lot was done behind the scenes. In fact, I wrote a story a few months ago saying that this is what's been going on, and people were very angry with me for having written about it. The fact that FINA has agreed to look at the case, and whether that means that they will reverse the decision, I don't know. But what the Canadians are asking for is a second gold medal to be awarded, not to have the medals reversed.
But I want more than that. I just want a duplicate of the gold medal. I want it changed. Because just for my sport's sake, please change it. It wasn't fair, and if it happens again in 15 years, it won't be fair again. So don't just like give me a candy and say, don't talk about it anymore, but change it. Just make sure it will never happen again, and not only in my sport, but in every judge sport. That's what I would really like to see.
We have some film of Sylvie Fréchette in the pool. Even though it's not a gold, all those years of training, how many hours, what was a typical day for you in the pool?
Actually, for the last year before the Olympics, it was around 40 to 45 hours a week of training.
What are we looking at here, Sylvie?
That's the first move I was doing at the Olympic Games, just going into my first figure that was so long. Actually, it was the hardest first figure I did through my career. This is Julie Sauvé, my coach. She's been my coach for 18 years.
Was she angrier than you were in Barcelona?
Actually, I don't know, I just stayed away from her.
Mount St. Julie got into Kristen Babb's mother's face
Is that right?
at a previous event, because it was clear that Kristen Babb had borrowed
Oh, yeah.
a move from Sylvie that suddenly they saw. They'd videotaped it, and then a week later, I guess in Bonn, was it?
No, it was right there. It was an Olympic trial. We
Okay.
got there 5 days before, and Kristen Babb's mom was taping everything of my movement, and she would just jump in the water and try it right there in front of me for the same competition.
Michael, you thought that only happened in NFL camps, right?
Well, sure. I mean, they have industrial spies.
Yeah, here you see a compulsory figures. That is where the mistake happened, and it was the Alba figure. And the Brazilian judge is the one on top, on the medal. And that's me getting nervous. And that's again the solo and the Olympics. And that's a move that we created for the Olympics because it's very hard, floating like that.
And she maintains that. She holds the position.
The irony is that the move, the routine in the preliminary that got the 8-7 was the albatross. And for those of you who know your mythology, the albatross is the weight around the neck. And for those of us in the poetry business, we found that quite a certain amount of symbolism there.
Another trademark.
And I'm watching the video,
Her back.
Michael, I'm going to direct this at Michael. Figure skating, there are men and women.
Mm-hmm.
In ballet, there are men and women ballerinas. In freestyle skiing, there's men and women ballet. No male synchronized swimming.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, actually, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
One guy, who is that?
Marek Nosek is swimming with the Camel Club here in Montreal.
Now, who does he get to play against? Who does he get to compete
he's
against?
swimming in duet with Karine Doré, and he's swimming the team. He's the only man with 7 women. And if you have a chance to talk to him, he'll say that he's the luckiest man on earth because he's training every day with 50, 60 girls. And
A man must move differently than a woman in the water in synchronized swimming, I would imagine.
yeah, but you just adapt a routine to it, I guess. And he's very good. If you've got a chance to come and see national championship here in Montreal, I'm sure you're going to see Marek perform. And
So he's
very
able to
good.
compete against women. This is one of those sports where a team of a man and a woman can compete against 2 women, I guess.
Actually, it's mixed in the same team. You won't see a team of men and a team of women, not yet, because there's not enough. So you just put the men in there with the 7 girls, and you adapt the routine to that.
We just saw, Michael, a shot of Kristen and Sylvie embracing there. I know it's your opinion that Kristen wasn't as gracious
No.
as she could have been.
Absolutely not. Certainly in the press conference, she got very huffy when people, and I presume they were Canadians, asked, well, do you feel in any way that this is a tarnished medal? And she didn't go ballistic, but certainly she thought that was an unfair question. I remember when I got home, there was an unfair headline in the Gazette on the story, something about Sylvie Fréchette wins tarnished silver. Well, there's nothing tarnished. about the silver, and it was not Sylvie's doing. But yeah, I found that I found her not as gracious as she could be. I have a question for you, Bill. What did what did Carol Ann Letheren say to you on the podium? And do you remember being on the podium and what was said between you and Kristen? And then Carol Ann Letheren,
She's the head of the Canadian.
she's the head of the COA and a Canadian member of the International Olympic Committee who presented the medals. Do you remember anything that was said?
Yeah, I remember, because at that moment I was conscious of everything. I was conscious of everything. I wanted to see everything happen, and it was just plain and simple, like if nothing happened, just congratulations, very good work and stuff like that. And that's not exactly what I wanted to hear, but I guess that was it. And in between me and Kristen, it was just simple congratulations, because she swam well. I swam very well, but she swam well too. So I didn't want to get angry against her, but that's for sure that at that moment she's not the girl I really wanted to talk to. But there was nothing personal. It was just the whole thing.
Sylvie, when all this blows away, what lies ahead for you? What do you plan to do for the next few years of your life?
I don't know. Well, right now I'm just touring across Quebec and Canada for National Bank of Canada, and I love it, because they just let me go in front of tons of people, kids in school, business people, employees of the bank, clients, and I just talk about my life. I just answer the question, I laugh with them, share my experience with them. That's for the first year. Right after, what we're going to do is they're going to show me a little bit more about marketing and communication. And actually, the more I discover it, the more I like it. So maybe you're going to see me in communication in the future year.
Michael, sorry, Sylvie.
Oh no, that's okay. I'm just at the same time I'm gonna have my bathing suit line. It's gonna be in the stores.
April 1st.
Yeah, you're very you're very well informed.
What is it called, the bathing suit line?
It's gonna be the Sylvie Fréchette line by Shan. Shan is a Quebec company, a very small one here in Quebec, but very well known in the
Stylish
US.
bathing suits or competitive bathing suits?
It's gonna be both. There's one that's gonna be exactly that like the one I had at the Olympics.
Wow.
Michael, I guess it's more than just a kiss on the cheek. Sylvie will always be a part of your life.
She's certainly a part of my 1992, and it's so rare we get to deal with people who are actually role models. And my goodness, I'm sitting next to one, and I'm honored.
Thank you very much. I never thought you'd actually say so publicly.
You too, Mitch, but I'm actually honored to deal with Sylvie in the way that I was honored to be a part in watching Silke and Laumann that Sunday in Banyoles. And if anyone sours on the Olympic movement, well, there's sometimes people like Sylvie who can change your mind, and I'm just honored to know her.
Amen.
30
Thanks
minutes,
very much.
30 minutes is hardly enough, Mitch.
Well, we got something here for you. Cover up your gray.
Oh.
You notice Farber's
Thank you.
a lot of gray. Sylvie, thank you very much for joining
No,
us. The
thank
folks
you.
from Starter. You can't wear that in the pool, but on the golf course maybe.
That's great.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Mike.
Like I said, 30 minutes, definitely not enough. We could sit here all day and talk to Michael Farber and, of course, Sylvie Fréchette. Join us on the next edition of the Sports Hot Seat.
Sports Hot Seat is brought to you in part by Sport Buff in Place Alexis Neon, where you'll find the entire line of Starter sportswear. Sports Hot Seat is brought to you in part by Sport Buff in Place Alexis Neon, where you'll find the entire line of starter sportswear.
Welcome to another edition of the Sports Hot Seat. Mitch Garber with Mitch Melnick, and you will not want to get up from your couch or your chair, or wherever you are. We have a great show for you today. We've got a very well-known and a growing in popularity artist from Montreal in Dwight Baird, and then Mitch and Mitch go to spring training and bring back a home video interview of George Steinbrenner, Larry Walker. We've got Reggie Jackson, Steve Wolf of Sports Illustrated, and a host of others. Mitch, the Winnipeg Jets.
Courtesy of Ty Domi and Dave Nicholson, of course. And this is spring training. We're going to get to the home movie spring training, which is the Grapefruit League, not the Cactus League, even though we have now got the fine cactus on our set.
Cacti, Mitch.
Cacti? Is that the plural? Cacti?
Cacti.
Oh, okay. Whatever. Dwight Baird, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Nice to have you here. A lot of people have probably seen your work, but haven't seen you before. Now they can put a face to some of the work. Dwight is as Mitch mentioned, growing in popularity, and you walk into more and more offices, especially those who are sports fans, and you will see your work on their walls. How did you first get interested in putting sports, and especially baseball, through canvas?
Well, actually, baseball is the only sport I'm actually doing. I've been doing these series of paintings, and 2.5 years ago, I decided one day while we were playing ball in the park to do a series of paintings on baseball. And ever since then, I've been more or less at it full time, getting this whole series of paintings ready, which is more or less ready at the moment. Now.
What is it about baseball that grabbed you?
I'm a baseball fan, as opposed to people, I don't know how many times I've been asked, well, do you have anything in hockey? I mean, I'm not a big hockey fan. I'm a baseball fan. I play ball in the summer. It's the game. I like the game. I think I just like summer to start with. For me, it just signifies like spring, summer, baseball. I just like the game.
Your work is not only in, actually we're taking a look right now, this is one of your last paintings that you just did, and it includes, it's all of the uniforms of all of the teams, no heads, and you have the Marlins and the Rockies included in this painting.
Yeah, it's up to date. It's actually done, the actual poster is taken from 3 different paintings. First, I did a whole strip of the National League, and I hadn't put the Marlies and the Marlins and the Rockies in. And then I did all the American League, and then I decided to do it as this whole poster thing with the Twilight's Last Gleaming, the whole national anthem idea. And I figured, well, if I'm going to do the poster, I might as well put the Florida and the Colorado teams in there. So that was all done at the end. And it's great because it gives them an equal number of teams, so it makes it look very symmetrical in it.
I've always wanted to ask you a question because I have a lot of your work in my office, as you know.
Yes, I know.
So does Ted Fletcher, who owns Starter Canada, and so does Claude Brochu.
We got another great
the Montreal
shot
Expos. This is an excellent painting. And actually, here's where the question comes in. Your paintings are so good that the ones that are montages look like they're collages and not actual oil paintings. A painting like the one we're looking, oil colors. Watercolors, I should say. One like we're looking at right now looks like a photograph. It's almost incredible.
Well, it's just a technique that I use. I guess it's a high realism technique. I just do it in a watercolor, which is, it's not a normal way to work a watercolor. Most people, when they associate a watercolor, it's something done, it's something that's done very quickly and very, very, I guess, spontaneously or whatever. But I just work this way, and I just have a different point of view. I mean, I'm a baseball fan, but I'm not a stats freak. I don't get up in the morning and I don't belong to a rotisserie league. I just see baseball maybe a little bit different than most other people.
Okay, this is Scott Erickson, right? What do you call this shot?
It's called Bearing Down.
And the catcher before that was who?
Loosely based on Gary Carter.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Doesn't want to pay him any rights fees. Very loosely based on
No,
Gary
I had
Carter.
he actually sat for me. I mean, at the end of the season last year, I had this, because I'd done this one, which I actually got the material in a different So when I got it off of TV, I had somebody come in to model and everything. And then when I did this one, I thought it'd be really nice to do another piece with the catcher. So it's kind of like the battery. I can sell, I'd like to market it kind of as the battery, the two, sort of the pitcher and the catcher kind of thing.
Dwight, you're selling the original paintings. We saw this one already, excellent. That's loosely based on Gary Carter, so as we take another look, you might see some of Gary's eyes in...
I changed the eyes. Actually, the only way you would know it was Gary Carter maybe was by the hair, which it would be a little bit farther back, but I changed the eyes, actually.
You're selling the originals of the paintings.
Yeah.
You're doing some limited edition print work and poster work.
And posters, yeah, high-end posters. And I'm doing the show in May, a big baseball show in May.
Where's that?
It's at a place on Sherbrooke Street called the Montreal Arts Club. It's near, between St. Matthew and St. Mark. And in this show, I'll have all the baseball pieces. There'll be about 50, between 50 and 55 baseball pieces. It's the whole baseball collection.
What kind of reaction do you get from baseball officials, players, coaches?
It varies between sort of totally non-committal and bewilderment to why would anybody paint baseball, to some people are very enthusiastic about it. I mean, I sold a painting to Otis Nixon, for instance. He just really liked it. I gear it more towards management. The players themselves, I don't think a lot of players have actually seen it. I hope maybe when I do the show that some of them will actually come to the show, because I don't think they've probably seen anything like this before. I mean, to actually have a mix between art and sport it doesn't really happen every day. I mean, a lot of sports people don't go to art exhibitions, and a lot of people that are involved in the arts do not go to sporting events, with maybe the exception of actually baseball. For some reason,
There's Leroy Neiman in the States who's worked in sports, and Ken Danby in Canada. Is there anybody else who is well known?
Well known. I mean, sports art now in the States is like the newest rage. I mean, it's everywhere.
We're taking a look here.
This is your collage of the Cooperstown painting, right? You went down to Cooperstown?
I went to Cooperstown, yeah. I went to Hall of Fame, and I also, in the village, I shot all the businesses that had anything to do with baseball, like all the signs. You'll see like the Doubleday Cafe and the Shortstop restaurant.
There's a lot more to this painting than we're actually seeing.
And keep in mind, again, what Mitch said earlier, this is not just stuff put together on a board. This is actually painted by Dwight.
Nor is it traced. I mean, that's what people always say to me. He must have traced it. I've seen Dwight paint, and it's really phenomenal to look at these baseball cards, old cards of Jackie Robinson and Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig, I can see from here. It's just something spectacular to see his work, either in poster form or, if you're lucky enough, fortunate enough, to see it in
There's Honus Wagner down in the corner there, right?
The $500,000 baseball card.
$350. Wayne Gretzky owns that card.
Yeah. I figured I had to put it in. Maybe it will bring the value of the painting up.
How long? And there's another piece which we'll see shortly. Does something like this take you?
This painting probably took me about 2.5 months to do, and that doesn't count like the research, the going to Cooperstown, the time I spent there shooting, and the time I spent putting the stuff actually together to get. It's getting the material sometimes it's labor intensive, just getting the whole project together.
But actually, on the what do you call it? Canvas.
Paper, whatever.
Paper.
Yeah.
It's two and
a
a
half
half months.
Yeah.
And how many hours a day would you say?
I put in pretty long, excuse me, I put in pretty long days when I was doing those things. I start like at 1 in the afternoon and I finish at 2 in the morning. I would say like 10, 12 hours a day.
Here's one of my favorites. This is the Artful Dodger, that of course Darryl Strawberry.
The infamous headless Darryl Strawberry.
And now what is it with you with no heads? We saw the other one with no heads, and now this one.
I know.
What is the significance
something
of this?
Psychological, No, I just don't, I mean, in this one, for me it's all composition. And like I said before, I'm not selling baseball personalities, I'm selling artistic images, and I just don't really think the world needs another portrait of Darryl Strawberry. And when I saw this, I mean, I had, in the actual material I shot, his head was in it. But I just cropped it, and I've done some other ones, like the All-Star one and stuff like that. I just find that it's a lot more interesting. I mean, there are a lot of people doing this sports art stuff now, and all they basically do is focus on the personality. And that's not what I'm selling. I mean, that's not what I want to do. I mean, I want to do sort of alternative baseball. That's what I'm doing.
When I met Dwight about a year and a half or 2 years ago, he was what you would refer to as a starving artist. All of a sudden now the artist sticks, but you're not starving anymore. What was the turning point?
You probably dispute that.
I don't know.
I mean, everyone has their own interpretation of what it is to be starving.
It's all relative.
But you were truly starving.
Yeah,
okay?
now I'm just a little hungry. Now I'm just a bit hungry. Right,
I mean, now you're starting to sell a lot of your work. You're getting a lot of recognition. What's been your break now that's sort of brought you through?
Well, this baseball thing seems to be really big. I mean, I would have never thought when I started it, but there seems to be a niche there that I found. And I guess it's because I'm doing it in a different way that also helps a lot. I guess I'll know more when I have the show, and I'll find out what the real reaction is. So far the reaction's been very good. I mean, I've started publishing posters and prints, and I'm getting licensed through Major League Baseball and stuff like that.
You were also commissioned to do the Expo's 25th anniversary poster, and the All-Star game last year, I think it was at San Diego at Jack Murphy Stadium. You did something in the All-Star program.
I did an article in the All-Star program, and hopefully I will do something again this year.
What do you mean an article?
I illustrated an article on those fantasy baseball camps, which
Okay.
you went to.
Yes,
But
which
you're not
I
in it.
started.
Yeah, congratulations. by the
Thank you
way.
very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, I illustrated it, and that was very good for me. I mean, obviously, if you get something in the All-Star program, that's pretty prestigious, you know. So I'm happy about all that. I'm happy about where all this has taken me. As to whether I'm still a starving artist or not, I think that's still debatable. But hey, I'm working on it, you know.
Obviously you do non-sports. I mean, that's
Yeah.
how you started doing non-sports.
I've been painting full time for 15 years. I mean, I've been painting baseball for 2 years. I've been pigeonholed lately as a sports artist, which is fine. I mean, I don't mind that at all. I enjoy what I do. I'm painting exactly what I want to paint right now. I don't think I'm going to paint baseball for the rest of my life, and heaven forbid that I would do something like football or something. But I mean,
What's wrong with football?
well, I'm not a big football fan. I guess it's just a different aesthetic, you know. I mean, like I said, I've been approached for hockey. I've been approached for basketball, golf. You know.
What about the individual stuff that you have done? We saw Darryl Strawberry. I don't know whether or not you've sold the original to Darryl Strawberry. You've done Roberto Alomar. You did it in Toronto. You took some pictures of his locker, actually.
Yeah, the locker, Roberto.
Delino DeShields, I believe, is one you just finished.
Yeah, I've done one with Delino, yeah, which bopping with the Spos in the clubhouse. I did a lot of clubhouse scenes. I did a lot of stuff behind the scenes. I went to the Dominican Republic. I did some work down there in the stadiums. I do a lot of close-ups, a lot of work with the equipment. And as you can see with the other ones, like the catcher and that, I really try to zoom in on a focal point rather than just do, like I say, just somebody with a bat in their hand.
You or Mitch mentioned an interesting point about a lot of sports fans may not go to art shows, but your stuff is really, I shouldn't call it stuff, your artwork is available in a variety of price ranges, from the original, which could sell for how much?
I guess it would be in the thousands, you know, for the big ones, you know. Yeah, it goes from anywhere from a poster to the original, which is obviously the creme de la creme, if you want to call it.
How much are your posters, for example?
The posters run between $25 and $20 and $50. I mean, I just published a very big poster, like 52 inches long. But yeah, it's like there's something, I guess, available for all markets. Obviously, the most exclusive thing is to actually own the originals.
What about Strawberry or Alomar or Delino? Do you think you'll sell one of your paintings to them?
I don't know. I mean, like I say, just as a lot of art people don't go to baseball shows. A lot of baseball people don't really know what's involved in the production of these things. They have no idea. I mean, part of what you get paid for as an artist is the time you put in also. And I've been doing this for 15 years, so I have a certain clientele. I have a certain price structure. I don't know if for somebody coming out of the sports world or strictly a baseball world, if they realize what goes into it, it's all really relative. Like I say, I can't gauge it until the show.
Mitch, do you have one of Dwight's works at your new CIQC Diggs offices?
No, if we can arrange something here, we'd be happy to take one, and I'd certainly mention who it's by. Just put it up on the wall in our little sports alcove there.
I'm sure something can be worked out, you know, before the end of the day.
Who's your favorite artist? All-time favorite artist?
Alex Colville, Canadian artist from the Maritimes. Alex Colville is a Canadian, and in the States, Andrew Wyeth. I don't know if you know these people, but they were two of the big influences in what I do. You know, like that Strawberry piece, I'm pigeonholed as an Alex Colville wannabe, you know.
Why, headless painter?
No, nothing to do with headless, just the style, the frozen moment in a very high detail rendition. And he does a lot of work like that. And Andrew Wyeth does a lot of New England country scenes, and when I do non-sports stuff, I do a lot of stuff like that. You know, I do a lot of Volkswagens and chickens and stuff like that.
This is the 25th anniversary season for the Expos, and Dwight's got a poster out available, which I would urge any Expos fan to take a long, hard look at and buy it, because it captures the history of the ball club.
And it will become a collector's item.
Yes.
No question about it. I've had mine for about a year in the office, and as well as Mitch, I would advise that too. Last year, I saw Dwight Baird at spring training. And this year, Mitch and I went to spring training, and Dwight, you'll stay with us and watch.
This is the creative part too here.
This is very
I heard
creative.
that,
Okay,
yeah.
Especially the direction.
Yes.
This is number one, my first time using a home video camera. Okay, For some reason, I acted as the cameraman, and Mitch was the...
He wouldn't let me touch his Sony.
Well, you know how possessive people get, you know.
Yeah. But by the way, that we must, there is a disclaimer here. Pierre Malte, who is our fabulous director on this show, has nothing to do with the following camera shots you're about to see.
Now, he may regret having said that once we've aired it, but we will in any event, give him credit for that disclaimer, that he has nothing to do with it whatsoever. It is a home video at spring training, Mitch Melnick and myself, and you're going to see right now a lot of different stuff. We ran in first to Rod Beaton, who is the National League baseball columnist for the National League, and of course Mitch's first question to Rod was how the Expos were going to do this year in 1993 in the National League. Let's have a look.
Too early for a prediction?
It's a little early,
Right
but
on the line on
well,
what we might expect.
I'll say one thing. The funny thing is, in September, I was higher on the Expos chances than I am now. I don't know if it's that I had a whole winter to reflect, or that I'm not distraught, but that expect that much of a blow from the departure of Tim Wallach. But in a National League East where everybody except the Marlins has a chance to win, everybody but the Marlins has a fatal flaw. I just wonder about a team winning with, the kids at the catcher, with basically an entire infield, of youngsters, and Delino being the only really truly established one.
And you asked Dan Duquette, this team is too young, and he said, look at the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, that's an interesting cross-sport analogy, but I just, I think a team like St. Louis, a team like Philadelphia would be the clubs to beat in the National League East. The Mets, of course, as always, have a lot of cards to play, but they got about 5 players playing out of position, as usual. And I don't think they're counting on Dwight Gooden. I don't think Dwight Gooden will ever again be a dominant pitcher, so I think that you have to shy away from them. So if you had to pick a sleeper club, it would have to be the Phillies, probably. The Expos, in my mind right now, would be probably eliminated one of the Cubs.
All right, can we bring Blair in here?
Why?
Why would we want to?
You don't have a pass
Says
for
you
that
can
camera.
eliminate the Expos.
Mitch, he wasn't so good on our TV show, was he?
He said you can eliminate the Expos.
Yeah. What do you mean eliminate?
Serious contention.
From
at this
contention.
point.
I just told you guys in your show they're going to finish 3rd or 4th.
Did you talk to him before saying that?
No. We knew that.
You can get a comment from Terry Scott if
The consensus.
Sure, bring Terry Scott in.
The consensus? What? I don't want to cut you short here. Finish your thought.
No, I think the consensus is they'll finish 3rd or 4th because they don't have the depth. This is not news.
Why are you moving so much? You think I'm a professional cameraman, for God's sake?
What is news is the hat. What is news is the hat that Melnick has, which is probably the worst hat anybody's seen.
Yeah, I'm going to get some real spring training footage here.
All right, I'm going around the cage here.
This is not a Jets hat, by the way. That was a WCAX
TV3.
Channel 3
That's
hat.
the CBS
down in
affiliate
Florida.
right here,
Yeah.
where Bob Harwood is working. You know what I realized, though? My voice is very annoying. I don't get the opportunity to listen to myself on the radio or to watch myself often on television.
You sound like a lawyer.
pretty
A startling revelation here.
So there we have.
That was Rod Beaton of USA Today, the newspaper.
Serious stuff.
Yeah, and as you can tell, I was in my vacation mode, and
It gets-
probably still am.
It gets worse because don't go anywhere because you're going to get George Steinbrenner, Reggie Jackson, and right now we run into Larry Walker, and probably one of the most fun guys in sports to interview, and we had a lot of fun with him on the. It looked like Garth and Wayne on the home videos. Let's take a look at Larry Walker. The team this year.
He's trying to be witty. It's too early in the morning. I don't know. I got a chance.
You got a good chance, you
I
think?
got a good chance. I don't have to split contract. I might make a starting lineup.
All right, bench player, or you think you'll start maybe?
There's
I
somebody
might get
more
a starting
important
job.
You might
here.
get a starting job?
You're trying to
All
hurt
right.
me. Throw me out from right field and make me turn on the boosters.
My knee almost.
That was John Smoltz, wasn't it?
Yeah, John Smoltz was complaining about the fact that Walker made him run to first the previous day because he hit a line single to right, and Walker was going to throw him out at first base, and he had to run hard at the last minute, and I pulled a muscle.
There was actually some more Larry Walker that somehow we missed, but he pulled a gray hair out of Mitch Melnick's head. He put it
And-
right up to the camera.
Yes.
Swung a bat at me.
As I informed him, his wife Krista's pregnant, and when he has a young daughter or son, the gray hairs will start to pop up all over the place.
By the way, one of the things that happened while we were at spring training was a tornado. We had that on a Saturday. It was wonderful. The baseball game between the Expos. Who were they playing that day? They were supposed to play who? Dodgers, maybe?
Dodgers, yeah.
Tornadoed or hurricaned out. They called it blustered out. It was a blustery day. But that day, no, the Braves, because I had my $40 stolen by the Atlanta Braves.
The Braves stole your $40.
It's not like they need it. I
No,
mean,
the Braves stole my $40. This is a true story. I bought 4 tickets for my family for a game where the Braves were the home team. You know, they share the municipal stadium with the Montreal Expos. After the game was hurricaned out, I went back to get my money back to refund the tickets. They claimed they never sold me any tickets. They had them at the will call desk. The Braves have stolen my $40. I guess they have to pay Deion Sanders
have
and
to pay Greg
Smoltz and
Maddux.
Gravin. Greg Maddux.
Greg
That's the
Maddux.
big one now.
Anyway, so Maddux, $40 of how much is Maddux making? 30 million?
$6 million a year.
Okay, $6 million a year. $40 of it came from my hard-earned pocket.
doesn't even pay for one pitch.
You should see the light standers, though, that infamous, it's not a hurricane, but it was actually worse than Hurricane Andrew. You could see the light standers in the outfield swaying back and forth, and it was scary.
It was
really
worse than
scary.
Hurricane Andrew in West Palm Beach.
Yes.
As far as West Palm Beach is concerned. Next, who do we have next? Darren Fletcher. We ran into Darren Fletcher next. He's the left-handed hitting catcher with the Montreal Expos, and obviously should have a starting role, I would imagine, in the 1993 season. And he wasn't all that healthy last year, as Mitch tried to find out.
Sure, you weren't that healthy.
I was. Well,
Oh, you had the lung problem.
I had the lung problem early in the season, but I was healthy at this point last year.
Who's the funniest guy in this team?
Funniest guy on the team? Funny looking, or
Yeah, give us that one.
maybe me, the funniest guy on the team. I don't know. Last year would have probably been like someone like Eli, or this year it's a little different. Probably Booger, because he's filthy.
Also the richest guy on the team.
Yeah, he's the richest. He's the funniest and richest.
Yeah, I'll let you know. You talk to several guys, and they say Eli was extremely funny, and the fans never got a sense of him. They
Well,
never
because
made
he's
that
dry.
connection.
He's real dry, and he's the type of guy that when you get to know him, I mean, he's really hilarious. But to meet him, you wouldn't think that he was very outgoing or anything, because he's just laid back, kind of like I am. But when you get to know him, the guy's hilarious.
I got a question for you, Fletch.
What's that?
How many guys do you recognize in this dressing room out of 70?
Out of 70?
Yeah.
I recognize probably around 30. I know everybody now, but when I first came in, though, it was like being a freshman at a fraternity where you had to learn all their names and majors and where they're from. So.
All right, that's enough, Mitch. That's enough, Fletcher.
All right.
Okay.
Mitch, when he talks about Booger, he's talking, of course, about Larry Walker. And when he talks about Eli being the funniest guy on the team last season, he's talking about Tim Wallach. And you're right. Who would think that Tim Wallach would be the funniest guy on the team?
He cracked all the young guys up, believe me. And Booger is from the Revenge of the Nerds, if any of you have seen that movie. There's a character in there, for obvious reasons, his nickname Booger.
Now, the reason I asked Fletch whether or not he knew a lot of the players in the room was merely because you and I didn't know all that many players, other than the regulars that we know from last year. There were guys coming and going from that clubhouse that you couldn't recognize for love or money.
Number 3, still don't know who number 3
Number
is.
59.
59.
No, number 3 is
I think
Todd
it's
Haney. Number 59, though, is a
F-
complete
F-
mystery.
Santangelo is number 59.
Or Israel Arteaga. These are some of the names you might hear in the next 4 or 5 years from now, but not in the next 4 or 5 weeks from now, that's for sure. We also got a chance, actually, other than just having an overall good time, to watch Delino and Marquise and Larry Walker and one of the newcomers, Sean Berry. You'll see Sean Berry fielding a ground ball here. We'll take a look at Marquise and Delino and talk a little bit about what we saw at spring training from these guys. There's Delino swinging a bat.
Choking up.
Yeah, choking up a lot.
Considerably.
You think he's going to do that during the season, Mitch,
I
or
hope
is he
so.
testing it out?
I hope so. He strikes out too much for a leadoff hitter, and he's not going to hit. He's capable of hitting 15 homers, but they don't want that from him. They want a lot of steals. They want to get on base, set the table for people like Grissom, who you see now, in a classic stance. And there is Sean Berry, the third baseman the Expos have, who can pick up who could pick up a ground ball.
And can hit too.
Bullock is having problems defensively, but Berry is fine. In fact, they even got him playing some shortstop.
We also ran into Steve Wolf, who's the managing editor of Sports Illustrated. Steve Wolf, one of the probably most, I guess, well-known and respected guys in sports journalism.
He's been covering baseball for Sports Illustrated for years, and he wanted to make it clear that he disagrees with Rod Beaton, that the Expos will be a factor in the National League East along with the St. Louis Cardinals. And he also said, and he said, take this to the bank, that the Florida Marlins will finish ahead of the Philadelphia Phillies. But he's interviewed so many people over the years. I asked him, those of us in the media have our ideas about who's a nice guy and who's a jerk, and that was one of the questions I wanted to ask Steve Wolf.
And you did. Let's take a look. Predictions better than Dr. Z's Super Bowl predictions?
No, they're no better.
No better?
No.
Who's the
Well, I won't judge out the past.
Who's the biggest?
Put the Cleveland Indians on the cover once. So.
Yeah.
Who's the biggest jerk in baseball that you've come across?
The biggest jerk in baseball? Jim Rice. Sorry, Jim. He's about the biggest jerk.
Jim's a big fan of the show, actually.
Dave King, Jim Rice. They're like neck and neck.
Jim Rice, he said, and then Dave Kingman.
Dave Kingman once sent a rat in the mail to a woman reporter. I mean, you can't become a bigger jerk than that. And he also mentioned afterwards that the nicest guys were George Brett and Kirby Puckett, that
That's
he enjoyed
right.
talking to.
You know, Mitch, we saved the best for last. We camouflaged and we camped out. We were waiting for George Steinbrenner. The boss was back. Baseball reinstated him. And Wayne and Garth caught up with the boss, George Steinbrenner. Let's have a look at it.
Television show in Montreal.
Oh, do you?
Want to say hi to Mitch?
Where? Right there?
Right here.
Right here, buddy. We're both named Mitch.
Vince, hi.
What's it like being seeing Reggie in the Yankee cap again?
See, being what?
Reggie in a Yankee cap again.
Good. Good. I'm glad he's going in the Hall as a Yankee. He joins a lot of others.
Where's baseball headed in this decade?
Baseball always will be the grand old game, and there are committees at work now to make the changes that are necessary. Believe me, the last meeting I went to about a month ago was the best meeting I've been to in baseball in 20 years.
Are you really going to share your money?
If they share so well, that remains to be seen. The salary cap is very much a necessity, and then we'll see what happens.
Do you get a sense from watching the last couple of years that fans are getting more turned off by all the talk about money?
Committees at work, it's a constant competition. You got basketball in June, you've got hockey in May, and football in July, and you got so many other distractions. You got to stay on the ball in marketing, and the pure traditionalists, the new group of young fans coming along. And as these new young people come along, they want different things than maybe were wanted 20 years ago. The world changes. And you got to keep up with it. That's all. And I think there are people that work in baseball to see them.
What's opening day going to be like at Yankee Stadium for you?
Well, it'll be nice. I'll enjoy being back. I'm very excited about it. And it'll be good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just for the record, he was calling you Vince.
Many times. I think he's got a few little problems. First of all, he called me Vince. He might have a hearing problem, but that's okay. He's getting a little older.
Well, he was competing with the organ there. I mean, that's...
You asked him about revenue sharing, and he said, well, if they share that, and then he went back and he said, well, we'll have to see what happens. But he's a really nice guy.
Well, it's because you don't work for him. The guy is he's a little crazy. He's a little wacko. But I must say that no other owner in sports, I don't think, could sit there. He was by himself, and every half inning for 9 innings, the ushers would let scores of people down just to get the autograph of the owner. There's nobody else like that in sports, I don't think.
There's no other owner, I think, that could exist that could really match George Steinbrenner in popularity. And as unpopular as he is, that's how popular he becomes. You know, the more they bash him, the more people that ask for his autograph. And as you said, he must have signed just hundreds of autographs in the course of a day.
Just like Dwight.
Just like Dwight.
I mean, how often do you sign your name in a year?
Oh, I don't sign unless I get paid for it anymore, Mitch.
Yeah, right. Great shirt, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Dwight Baird. And Mitch and Mitch are back from spring training, and we'll bring you more editions of the Sports Hot Seat. So sit right there and don't move. We'll be back with another edition of the Sports Hot Seat.
Dwight Baird in the phone book.
That's right.
Nice to be here.
Sports Hot Seat is brought to you in part by Sport Buff in Place Alexis Neon, where you'll find the entire line of starter sportswear. Sports Hot Seat is brought to you in part by Sport Buff in Plaza Lexus Neon, where you'll find the entire line of starter sportswear.
Welcome to another season of the Sports Hot Seat, and we've got a special one for you. Part one of a two-part series with two of the best ball players in the National League, maybe in all of Major League Baseball, DeShields and Marquise Grissom. Also, of course, back this season, co-host Mitch Melnick.
Mitch, welcome back.
Welcome to you.
And a very special welcome to Messrs. Grissom and DeShields, who, yes, are not only two of the finest ball players in Major League Baseball, but you're going to find out a little bit more about them off the field here and why they're as popular as they are. Guys, welcome. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Mitch.
Are you guys great friends? Are you bosom buddies? Are you just close friends? Or you just can't stand each other and this is all an act? Which is it?
I don't know him.
Really, I don't like him too like that. I mean, that's my boy and everything, but I don't like a lot of things that he does.
Like? What don't you like that he does?
We ain't gonna get into that on TV. But
let me ask you a question. You guys are always associated with each other. You came up around the same time. Your careers have taken off about the same pace. Does it bother you at all that it's always Delino and Marquise or Marquise and Delino?
It bothers me. You know, like when you ask me to come on the show and you're like, I'm getting Delino too, and I'm wondering why can't you just, you know, get him on the show by himself or get me on the show by myself or whatever.
That don't mean he don't like me, though.
Yeah, that don't mean I don't like him, but everybody can put us together. Every time we do a card show, every time we go somewhere, they always say Delino and Marquise, and every time I go somewhere, I'm Delino sometimes, and I'm not.
But you understand, Delino, why fans are so passionately enthusiastic about discussing the two of you together. When they talk about their team, Montreal Expos fans talk about Delino and Marquise as being those two great ball players playing great, exciting ball at the same time.
Yeah, I can understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, they have to understand that we're individuals, and we have our own individualism, and, you know.
You're very different, in fact, obviously,
right.
as individuals. So what would you say, from a personality standpoint, your biggest differences are?
He's stubborn.
Yeah.
And I don't know. People just don't, you know, they don't understand him or me as well as we understand each other. You know, I know myself and he knows himself, and that's why we get along. I know him and I know how he is and I know what he does, and so I accept that, and that's that. And I don't go any further, but, you know, people just think, you know, me and him do the same thing all the time, but we don't.
Would you say you're closer to being actually opposites in terms of personality than?
I would just say that we grew up in two different parts of the country. You know, I'm from the north, and Marquis grew up in the south, and you know, a lot of things that he reacts to, I might not react to it, or I might react in a different way. So that's probably the biggest difference in us right there.
Have you learned anything from your friendship with each other? Must be a lot of similarities baseball-wise in how you've come up together.
Well, it's just a lot of well, he's from a large family where I'm an only child, but as far as our paths coming up, you know, through the ranks or whatever, there's a lot of similarities.
Do you have a natural, you know, I don't want to read too much into what's inside your head, but what's 16? Family of 16?
15.
15? And Delino's an only child. Do you feel a natural gravitation towards being a brother because of your upbringing? No?
got enough brothers. He doesn't need another one.
Nah, I look at him as, you know, as a friend. We played together in AA, AAA, and we pretty much came in the big leagues at the same time. And it's just we've been at the same stage and at the same level, and we try to teach each other as we go. We never stop learning, and that's why we get along too, because we communicate well. We're about the same age, and we came through at the same time.
Do you share some of the same interests off the field in terms of music, hobbies, or movies, or books, or whatever, anything like that?
Well,
yeah, we do. Music-wise and going out together, but he read a little bit more than I do. He try to educate himself a little bit more, and I don't do too much reading, but everything else we pretty much do the same thing.
Now, you each have a child that's close to the same age. You just had little Bop. I don't know if you call him that yet, but Delino Jr., I guess, 8 months old now. You've got a son, 14 months old. Your kids had a chance to meet each other, I would imagine, during the off-season, or at least in Palm Beach during spring training.
Yeah, they done kicked it a little bit. You know.
They running around.
They're going to have plenty of time to do that.
Marquise's kid must be beating on your kid. He's 6
tried
months
to.
old.
He
already
tried
beating him up. He already getting it.
Yeah.
Is fatherhood what you guys thought it was going to be like? I mean, there's a lot more to it than wait. I mean, believe me, just wait a couple more years. But is it pretty much what you thought it would be? Is it better?
It give me something to look forward to other than baseball. You know, I can go 0 for 4 or go 4 for 4, and after the game, I'm thinking about my son. And it just made me a better person, a stronger person, and I don't have to worry about myself anymore. It's not just me. It's my son now. So it's been a big difference, but my main concern is the well-being of my son now.
I interviewed you, Delino, in spring training, talked about how your son changed your life, and you said that he did change a lot of the outlook and philosophy you had about life when Delino was born.
Yeah, well, growing up an only child, I've basically looked after myself, been concerned with myself, and I've done everything for me. And now all of a sudden I got this little one, and it does change you a bit. It's not just me anymore. You know, I got to look out for him now.
Has it changed the way you react to other people, not just to your wife and to your child?
I don't think so. I'm not as judgmental anymore, you know, because I got to raise my son and do the best I can with him.
How quick were you to judge before?
Real quick. Because I just felt like, you know, if it was wrong, I was going to tell you about it. You know, I might be wrong, I might be right, but I don't do that anymore because I know that, you know, my son's going to be looking at me, so I got to do the right things for him.
Have you guys thought about, because of what you do for a living, how you're going to relate to your kids, your son at this point, your sons? They're going to grow up watching you be in the spotlight, and it's not like most other fathers who work 9 to 5 or whatever. Have you thought about how you might handle that?
I have. Well, I think just along the way, each year, as he grow older, just you know, tell him to, you know, education first and to be himself and to be real, and just take him through as I came through. You know, it was different for me.
Just be yourself.
You know, when I came up, but he gonna have better things than I had when I was his age, and better living conditions and everything. So I hope he use that as an advantage and move on and be even, you know, better than I was.
Both of you must be very proud that you're going to be able to provide so much more for your family than what you had growing up.
Well, I think that's every man's, you know, wish or whatever, just to be able to provide for his family. And not a lot of African-American men are able to do that. So, of course, it feels good.
What do you think you'll do differently? Your kids will grow up with millionaire, multimillionaire fathers, and you're going to have to keep those kids leveled down to the ground. It's a whole different mindset, I imagine, than what you grew up with. They won't have to work that hard to get the things that you had to work hard to get.
Yeah, they will. I mean, my son, he's going to have to earn what he gets. You know, he's going to have a lot of love and a lot of this, that, and the other, but he's going to have to earn it.
You think you'll spoil your kids at all? Or will they be automatically spoiled having Marquise Grissom and Delino DeShields as fathers?
Already. My son is already spoiled to a certain extent because I'm not there, you know, every day. And she buys him everything, and he has everything, but he's gonna have to work for everything, I think. You know, just because we got it, I'm not gonna just keep giving it and let him keep making mistakes. It's starting now, though. You know, you can't wait till you get 4 or 5 and try to discipline your child.
I don't want to talk to you as if you're the same person because we've already been through that. Are either or both of you going to be strict fathers? Real authoritarian fathers?
I don't think I will be.
Well, me personally, you know, I feel like discipline is something that we've gotten away from. It's like, oh, you can't beat the children and this, that, and the other. But I got beatings when I was young, and it teaches you sometimes when you don't listen and mind your parents. Sometimes you got to go upside their head, you know. So I'm not saying I'm gonna beat my kid to death or nothing like that, but you know, if he gets out of line, I got something for him.
Describe your childhoods in 30 seconds. What were they like?
60. You can take 60.
60.
It's okay.
Mine was long, hard. Did a lot of things. I learned a lot during the ages of probably 6 through 15. I think that's where I got all my discipline. My mom and dad did an excellent job, I think, raising 14 out of 15 kids. So I have to thank them for a lot of my stuff, you know, for the things that I did and my success right now.
Childhood in Seaforth, Delaware?
It was pretty much like anybody else's, I guess, you know. Not a lot of money, a lot of love, grew up fast.
You basically took care of your mom, though, didn't you?
Well, I mean, just here recently, when I got into pro ball, I had the opportunity to finally do something for my family. And that was probably the biggest reason why I didn't go to college. You know, I just wanted to help my family out.
I think most Montrealers know that you could have played basketball. Now, you still play basketball, but obviously not for a living. Have you ever given it any thought that, geez, if I had just waited, or maybe, you know?
Sometimes. I don't have regrets, though. You know, I just wonder sometimes if I could play in that league, you know, with Michael and Patrick and all those guys.
Marquise, was sports a big part of your growing up? Outside of baseball, you do any other sports growing up?
Yeah, I played pretty much everything.
He can hoop, too.
Can he?
He can ball a little bit.
I
yeah.
can't hoop
Not with
like
him.
him. No, I can't play with him. I tried to guard him in Atlanta
with
in
me,
a
but not with
basketball
him.
game, and he hit 30 points on me. NBA threes.
What'd you play, football?
I played football and basketball. And playing sports in high school, that was my way of staying out of trouble. I had to play. If I didn't play sports, I would have had all the extra spare time after school, and I think I would have took the wrong direction. But that's just a decision I had to make at that time. And I made the right decision. I think I did.
Hope so.
Did you, Delino, I think it's fair to say you're still learning baseball. When did you first pick up a glove?
Guess I was 7. I remember my dad taking me out and buying me my first glove. I was 7 years old.
And did you use it a lot?
Yeah, I played a lot of baseball when I was young, but I didn't have the love for that game that I had for basketball. You know, it was just something that the neighborhood kids did. You know, whatever season it was, that's what we played. We didn't play hockey though.
Have you acquired a love for baseball?
Well, yeah, it's my livelihood. I mean, that's what I do now. So yeah, I do have a bit more passion for it than I did.
Bobby Hurley of Duke talks about playing so much basketball in Pennsylvania in the projects, and that's why he became the ball player that he did. Is there a certain camaraderie about project basketball that you just can't find in organized baseball?
Well, project baseball or project basketball would be like sandlot baseball. I mean, just picking up some cardboard and throwing it out there and going at it. You know, that's what I could compare it to.
Did you play sandlot baseball?
Yeah,
stick ball, wall ball.
That's all we had. You know, we didn't have umpires out there in back of the school. We just went at it. You know.
Same thing for you?
Yeah, basically. You know, me and my little brother, we used to play all the time, and my next door neighbor, and that's all we do. We get a tennis ball and a bat or a stick every day, after school every day.
Who did you want to be? Who did you pretend to be?
Nobody at the time.
Me either.
I didn't really want to be nobody. I wasn't into baseball that tough until I got drafted.
You both grew up without a lot of money, which means you have a lot of friends, probably that didn't have a lot of money either. What are a lot of your friends doing now? You guys have become multimillionaire professional marquee is a good word, marquee baseball players. What did a lot of your friends end up doing back from Seaforth and from Georgia?
Well, a lot of my friends are, I mean, I call it in the belly of the beast right now. They're in jail. And then a lot of them are still there trying to do the best they can.
Does it hurt you?
It does. But everything happens for a reason, you know. Just like me getting the chicken pox this year.
Yeah, what was that reason? Give Mike Lansing a shot, I guess.
That's right. Because coming out of camp, he didn't expect to play a lot, you know. And then all of a sudden I get sick and boom, he's in there.
So you'll sacrifice your chicken pox for his 400 batting average?
That's right, as long as we win.
Marquise, what a lot of your friends
During my time growing up in high school, I didn't have real close friends. I had about 3 or 4, and I still got them. I know a lot of people that when I went off to college that I knew, but they wasn't really that close to me, that are, like he said, in jail, dead, or on drugs, or selling drugs, or whatever. But, you know, that was a thing, you know, back in 1985 or whenever we were in high school. But I had a couple of guys that I was real close to, and most of them are married and got families and doing well. And I only had like 2 or 3, so, and 2 of them are brothers, so I still got my same friends.
Is there anything that you guys feel that you could do, maybe if this much, to help the next generation of Afro-American young kids who are underprivileged, don't have maybe seemingly a shot? Anything you guys think you can do? Show them the right way, or tell them anyone can make it?
No, I think the best thing I could do is just to raise my son or my children, or I don't know if I'm gonna have any more. That's up to my wife, you know. But just raise my children and do the best by them. That's the best thing I think I can do.
What does history tell you, though?
That the family is important. That's what it tells me, and that's something that the black community right now is hurting. The family is hurting because the men are not there. And we have to be there for our kids. You know, we're making babies and this, that, and the other, but we're not really there raising them, and that's what it's all about. You know, you got to raise them up to be the persons that you want them to be.
And why has that happened?
The system. I mean, you know.
It didn't just start.
It's the system.
Is it getting better?
No.
You don't see any improvement at all? I mean, it's hard to see improvement. You watch CNN every night, and you just see gang warfare going on in the inner cities of every city.
Just watch the news, read the papers, and you can see it's not getting better.
And the family, to you, is that's where it's got to start, with the family.
That's right.
You feel the same way?
Yeah, because if my mom and dad didn't raise me the right way, and you know, left me out there to make decisions, you know, when I needed to make the right decision, you know, I probably wouldn't be here today. And it all started at home.
Do you guys have any faith in any politician anywhere, or any public figure anywhere who can make a difference?
I don't believe in nothing. I don't trust nobody. I just go.
That's a pretty tough negative attitude to have, though.
Cynical.
I mean,
It's justified. Probably justified.
To a certain extent.
I think politicians are cynical. But we're not talking about that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But I mean, has there anywhere been somebody who you said, yeah, you know, he or she is right, and if they had a chance?
I think probably the 2 best political people that have ever been on the scene are John F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King, and they both were killed. So that right there told me something. Somebody didn't want them around. So I don't see anybody else coming.
In your bio, in the media guide, at least in the '92 media guide, one of your idols was Malcolm X, so I would assume you would throw him in.
Well, I didn't really look at Malcolm as politically or political. You know, he was more spiritual and.
But he had the right idea.
Yeah.
Did you see the movie Malcolm X?
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah, of course I did. You like it? The way it was done?
Not really.
What didn't you like about it?
It was because it made it seem like the Muslims were solely responsible for killing this man, and that wasn't the way it was, you know. There was a lot of undermining that went on, you know. Just a lot was left out there that could have been told.
Surprised you that Spike Lee would leave some of that stuff out?
Well, I mean, ever since I heard what Spike said about Deion last year, was it?
Yeah.
I'm not surprised about this man, you know, even though I like his work, but ever since then, I just, I don't know about my man Spike.
What did he say about Deion Sanders?
He basically, you probably maybe remember it better than I do. He was saying that Deion was white, basically. Deion is
he was talking about how
not a
could they
representative
put
of the black
this bum or this idiot on the cover. What was it? What was the magazine he was talking about?
It was...
Sports Illustrated, maybe?
It might have been.
Anyway, he was just calling them all these names and stuff. And
he ripped apart Deion Sanders as not being representative of the black community at all, and not really being an Afro-American at all. And there's a lot of controversy about that. Obviously, Deion just shook it right off, but someone like Delina, who's an Afro-American athlete, was unable to shake it off. Are you a Spike Lee fan?
Mm-mm.
What kind of movies
I don't
do you
even
like?
go to movies.
What kind of movie? You don't go to movies at all?
I've been to 5 movies probably my whole lifetime.
You must have a favorite then. Not too tough to remember.
5 whole life. I just don't go to movies.
Television? You watch any television?
Well, every now and then, you know, pass time, but don't really get into one certain, you know, big scene or anything. I watch Martin. That's about my favorite show, and that's it.
Martin who?
I guess they don't show Martin.
They don't
up
show
here.
Martin up here. A little slow, a little behind. Up
Yeah,
in
is
Canada.
that Martin Lawrence a talk show?
No,
It's
that's a
comedy.
show.
It's a sitcom.
Okay. I got that. There's another sitcom. Now I'm drawing a blank. It's a black sitcom. Damon Wayans was in it.
Live in Color.
Live in Color. You ever watch that one?
Yeah, but
Not
you
one
can't
of your
compare it
favorites.
to Martin. No.
Let me
They
ask
get
you guys,
blamed.
while we're on, we somehow got onto the subject about the Bill Cosby show. There are a lot of people who didn't like the representation of that family as being representative of what Black America was about, and they thought it was unrealistic. And others responded to that by saying, well, what do you mean? You can't have a successful black family in America? I mean, did you have any problems with the Cosby show?
Mm-mm. Thought it was a great show. And I feel like we all deserve to live like that. I mean, like the Huxtables were living. You know, they were living large, so to speak, but I feel like we all deserve the best things in life, you know. Nobody should be homeless, out there starving, and all that.
Bill Cosby's a doctor in that show.
Mm-hmm.
His wife is a lawyer in the show. Kids are all going to school. To me, that's a great show to have. Better to have a show like that than any other. Now you have the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which is completely, I mean, different than Cosby. It's the high living, but more unrealistic, not because the characters are black, but just the way the whole show is put together. It's trying to take off on Cosby, but it's not. But I tend to agree with Marquise and Delano that that's a good show. You got a lawyer and a doctor, why not? Not only
Same kind of sweater.
Yeah.
You had a great collection of sweaters on this show. Who helped you the most in becoming a successful Major League Baseball player?
Good question.
Too
Far
bad
as what?
Just somewhere along the way who may have had a little more input than somebody else, who you remember more fondly than somebody else, perhaps.
It's just a whole bunch of people. You know, my mom, my dad, my high school coach, college coach, but it all started, you know, with myself. Working hard. Didn't nobody tell me to work hard, do extra work. You know, didn't nobody stay on me all the time. You know, I had to drive myself, but a whole bunch of people just, you know, helped here and helped there, but to pick, you know, one person that really stood out, I really couldn't say.
What about yourself?
Like you said, there was a lot of people, but one man stands out in my mind. His name is Gene Glenn, and he was a coach with us some years ago. And he just stayed on me all the time. You know, he wanted to see me get better, and I want to say thanks if he's watching out there somewhere. You know,
He's getting better. What? Go ahead.
Now, were you in your neighborhood in Seaforth at 15, 16 years old? Seaford down there. Got it.
Okay.
Were you the star of the neighborhood? I mean, Delino, you got to see Delino plays hoops, baseball. This guy's going to be a pro athlete one day. Was that the word? A lot of clippings in the Seaford newspaper?
Yeah, well, there was a lot of clippers, but to me, I wasn't the best player in the neighborhood. You know, there were other guys that I even looked up to that did make it.
Has anyone else ever come out of Seaford other than you?
No.
You're like the Seaford claim?
We got a couple more on the rise right now, though. A kid with the Oakland organization, Mike Neal, and a kid that's with the Padres now. He was with Toronto last year. He got traded in the Darren Jackson deal, him and Derek Bell, Stoney Briggs, and another kid with the Brewers. So we got a few more coming.
Is there a sign yet as you enter Seaford, Delaware, home of Delino?
Nah.
Haven't done that yet?
Nightline capital of the world.
He got the key.
That's it.
How about you, Marquise? Were you like the man in the neighborhood when you were growing up?
No, like he said, you know, it was a lot of guys that I looked up to, too. Because I played with guys that were, you know, 5 and 6 years older than me, maybe 10. And I competed against them. I think that's a big reason why I was getting better.
His
at the
neighborhood
time.
was a lot bigger than mine too. There's a lot of boys in his neighborhood.
Yeah, you had to hold your ground too.
What's the deal with your socks now? Last year you had them up, and you said it was your tribute to all of those who paved the way for you and the Negro League and so on. Now they're back down.
Well, I still think I have a.
That baggy look.
Yeah,
the
I
bag-
mean, you know,
you
it's
do.
still, it might be a different era now, you know. Maybe last year was the 20s or the 30s. Now it's moving on up.
You're like a chameleon. I mean, you change.
That's right, that's right.
You do it on purpose.
I do.
Try to keep people a little bit off.
Yeah. Try to keep, you know, just my own thing, you know. So they can say, yeah, that's DeShields right there.
They've been saying a lot of that lately.
All the time. There you go.
Yeah.
Do you have a obviously you do. Do you have as much an appreciation of the sport and the guys who went before you as Mr. DeShields does?
Oh yeah, I do. You know, it wasn't for those guys, it wouldn't be no arbitration, no free agency and all of that. And I'll go back and I talk to Tommy Harper a lot, and he pretty much educate me on how it was back in the day. And, you know, we can't do anything but thank those guys and try to make it even better for the next generation that's coming to play ball.
You never had to drink from a water fountain that said, one said whites, one said blacks. You never had to go into a restaurant and say, no, you can't eat here. The rest of the team.
But see, that's what I was talking about earlier. I mean, Marquise grew up in the South, and he saw a lot of that stuff, whereas I grew up in the North, and I really didn't see it. And so now all of a sudden I get exposed to things like that at a later age, and I react more differently than he does, whereas he's more, when he sees stuff like that now, he doesn't, you know, react as quickly, you know, because he's seen all that and he knows how to handle it a bit better than I do. But for me, you know, I just can't, I don't tolerate things like that.
Are you angrier as a result?
I think
You're
so.
angrier than he is.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
And he helps me out. He helps me out with that stuff.
At the time, I was angry. I've been in a grocery store. I know I'm talking about this. This hasn't been about 20 years ago. I seen a lady walk right in front of my mom in a grocery store, and just go, you know. So little things like that. But he has a right to be angry because that's not right. Period. But it's been going on for years and it hasn't changed. It's getting worse.
We'll continue this conversation about racism. We'll talk about Marquise's arbitration hearing a few months
Everybody
ago.
want to talk about racism these days.
On the next edition of the
And
Sports
baseball.
Hot Seat.
Yeah.
Exactly. We have some nice gifts from Starter, though. Marquise is a big fan of Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls, whereby Delino is a big fan of Randall Cunningham, no longer Reggie White of the Philadelphia Eagles, and Starter's given us a bunch of real nice stuff. We'll be back next week on the Sports Hot Seat with Marquise Grissom and Delino DeShields, and we'll continue. Thanks a lot.
Michael Jordan.
Sports Hot Seat is brought to you in part by Sport Buff in Plaza Lexus Neon, where you'll find the entire line of starter sportswear.